For the first time in my 20-year career, I took a pause and a deep breath. And that's when I enrolled in a program on art history, getting back to my passion. And when I went over there and I sat through those classes, it was a 1-year program. I realized, my God, I was waiting for one Saturday after the other. We went to Banaras. We went to Bishnupur, where the Baluchari comes from. We went to Paitan, where the Paitani comes from. We went to Patan, where the Patan Patola comes from. We went to Coimbatore, where the fabulous cottons come from. We went to Maheshwar for the Maheshwari. We went to Kanchipuram for the Kanjivaram. I always found first-generation businessmen, entrepreneurs, very humble, down-to-earth, and grounded, right? No matter how much wealth they had. And I was always wondering, how is it that they keep themselves so grounded? But I realize now as an entrepreneur that entrepreneurship is a very grounding, experience, because you are constantly battling so many challenges, and the smallest of victories, a smallest sale or a smallest mail saying, acknowledging the work that you do, goes such a long way.
Hi, and welcome to At a Crossroads. I take great pride in introducing my guest for today, Menon. Minnie is an award-winning journalist, an author, and now an entrepreneur. She is the co-founder of Peepul Tree World, a digital platform for artisanal handmade products from the deepest corners of India. She is also the founder and editor of Live History India, a one-of-its-kind digital platform on Indian history and culture. Hi, Minnie. Thank you so much for joining me. And it's an absolute honor to be doing this chat with you today.
Thank you so much, Neha. It's such a pleasure to be in this formal kind of an interaction with you. We've known each other for years, and I've enjoyed your company, and I look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've known each other over so many years, and we've collaborated on some great interviews together. So yeah, I mean, how does it feel to be on the other side? For your
life comes a full circle, and that's been the mantra of my life, as you will kind of understand as we go through this conversation. So it's really lovely, also because you have different perspectives because you've kind of been on both sides. So it's really fascinating.
Yes. So Minnie, you've had a phenomenal career as a journalist. You've been, interacting with the top business leaders, corporate leaders, policymakers, throughout your career, and being in the thick of things in Mumbai city. And now you've gone the completely opposite way. You've left Mumbai. You're traveling the interior parts of the country and interacting with the local artisans, craftsmen. How different is it for you now to be interacting with a completely different set of people?
It's fascinating, Neha. Really, I couldn't have, been more blessed as far as my career path is concerned. And going back to the theme of full circle, I was mentioning to you about how my life is all about full circles. And I think where I am today is also where I started off, because I was, my father was in the army. I grew up traveling across the so-called boondocks of India, interiors of India, because you know how army postings are. We were posted in far-off places. And that instilled in me a love for 2-3 things, actually. First is travel. The second is India itself, because, every time we went to a new place, it was just like a new chapter opening in your life with new discoveries, new communities that you interacted with, new people that you met. And the third was this curiosity that was egged on, because, life is all about learning, right? And that's the thing that I've enjoyed in my career, that every morning I've started the day with little less knowledge. I've ended the day with a little more knowledge, and also the knowledge that, the spectrum of what we don't know is so big. And what a beautiful journey it is to be able to just constantly experience new things, learn new things. That's something my parents instilled in me a lot, because my father was a veritable traveler. He was curious. And I think my love for history, for journalism, for political history, all of it emanated from conversations from that travel in the very early period of my life. And so naturally, I I chose history as my subject of choice. I wanted to be an archaeologist. And I spent the early years of my education, my graduation, with a very single-minded focus on Indian history, the subcontinent history, also with a kind of a leaning towards archaeology. However, this was the 90s, and there weren't many opportunities at that point. And in fact, archaeology wasn't even a subject that was given as a choice in most universities. So I had to go to Pune if I had to study archaeology. And when I went to Pune, I realized that most Indian universities didn't offer archaeology as a subject. So there were no jobs either that were available after archaeology. So I decided at that point, it was a good decision in hindsight, that my passion can remain my passion, but as far as my career goes, I need to choose something which is as close to my passion as possible, but it need not be something that is a hobby for me. So I then chose journalism, because that is the natural corollary to any history lover. Because you can't understand what's happening today, be it in business, be it in finance, be it in politics, be it in society, without understanding history. From a pure political history, I kind of segued completely in an opposite direction by going into high finance and stock markets. And that's where we met, when you were at HSBC and I was in Bloomberg. For the first time in my 20-year career, I took a pause and a deep breath. And that's when I enrolled in a program on art history. I thought it would be a weekend getaway, getting back to my passion, because all through this also I had a history book with me all the time. And when I went over there and I sat through those classes, it was a one-year program, I realized, my God, I was waiting for one Saturday after the other, because I just wanted to be there. And then I realized two things also, that in the 20 years that I had given up history, that, there was a lot of good stuff happening on Indian history, but that was happening overseas, right? There was nothing much happening in India. And second, I felt one of the problems was, even if it was happening, one of the problems was there was no platform in India to actually showcase what was happening in cutting edge stuff in history. Because most of our perception of history is cemented in the 12th class books or the 10th class books or the graduation level books and the old authors, right? But there's so much of research happening over here. And that's when I realized that it would be great to start a digital platform on Indian history. Because I was part of 3 startups, really. I was part of CNBC TV18 when it became from the founding years of it in 2001. I was part of the Times Now launch. So I was the second employee in Times Now. So I had seen it from scratch to scale. And third was with Bloomberg, with UTV and Bloomberg. So I had a very, very good grip on the startup environment. When you start a business, what it takes to scale up. But I felt that the digital revolution allowed me the opportunity to live vicariously, take this bet, and actually venture into Live History India, which was the first avatar of Peepul Tree.
Right.
And I also found great backers, people I had known for many years who understood the value that we were creating by creating a platform on Indian history to map Indian history district by district. And that's how the journey started. I got some fabulous people to back me. And that's where Live History India was born. And to quickly come to where we are, in the quest of chronicling the living history of India, I also landed up chronicling the stories of our living crafts, our artisans, because you can't take away Indian history without its beautiful craftsmanship and skills, because we often forget that the British, the French, the Dutch, all of them came to India because of India's fabulous artisanal products, its finest cotons, and this has been through 4,000 years. So as I was doing this, 3 things happened. GST happened, Notebandi happened, and COVID happened. And all the artisans that I had interacted with were in dire straits. And because we wanted to help them, we decided to set up Peepul Tree, which was a way to connect them directly to buyers across the world, and also an opportunity for us to tell their story. Right. Because I believe that people buy into stories.
These communities usually are very, close-knit communities. They are not very open to change. They're not technologically savvy. How difficult was it for you to build trust amongst them? Was it easy, or did it take some sort of convincing?
Right. That's a good question, Neha, because, in this community, it can't be a transactional relationship, right? I mean, because, they have a skill set which you are tapping into, So first of all, they are creators. I see them as artists, and, they deserve all the respect and the celebration really of their work. So one of the things that happened was, willy-nilly, we started off by chronicling their stories and their history. The first series of documentary films that I did, it was on the textiles that made India famous through history. So my first introduction to actually filmmaking in the avatar of Live History India, of course, earlier I had done many, was to go to these cities where textile traditions had been famous for centuries. So we went to Banaras, we went to Bishnupur, where the Baluchari comes from. We went to Paitan, where the Paitani comes from. We went to Patan, where the Patan Patola comes from. We went to Coimbatore, where the fabulous cottons come from. We went to Maheshwar for the Maheshwari. We went to Kanchipuram for the Kanjivaram. And when we went there, we chronicled the history. So that kind of started off on a journey where we were not looking at art or craft as just the art or craft, but really a symbol of the historical legacy, the cultural significance. So the marble inlay worker, and I have a marble inlay piece, by the way, this one, for instance, this is made by a marble inlay artisan in Agra. And according to records, his ancestors came to make the Taj Mahal. So there is this continuum from history where these artisans are living in places where they are making the products or the objects that their forefathers made. And look at how the world comes to see the Taj. And it's amazing that in India we have a living legacy of the Taj in the form of the kind of arts and crafts we have. I find it fascinating. Yes. And as we built this relationship with artisans, they also wanted to tell their story. They just don't want to go and sell a product. It's not a plastic product that you can get on a website, right? I mean, this is a story. And they were so excited about telling their story that itself built a lot of trust for us.
I mean, what a wonderful way to instill pride amongst the artisan community. At the same time, improving their financial condition. So that's absolutely wonderful. And now I do want to ask you, you've had an established career as a journalist. You were really a sought-after journalist. It would be interesting to know about your struggles as an entrepreneur. I mean, we all know about financial struggles. We know about the emotional ups and downs that founders go through. Anything unexpected that happened which you want to talk about?
I think, Neha, because I was a journalist who also covered a lot of companies, from start to scale, so to say. I'd done a whole series with Harvard and had the opportunity to meet these great professors. I'd met great entrepreneurs also. And I always realized, and it's only when I started up a company that I realized how it works, because I always found first generation businessmen, entrepreneurs, very humble, down to earth and grounded, right? No matter how much wealth they had. You see a Narayan Murthy. The first time I met the Infosys founder, I met him at his guest house in Green Park, where he made tea for me. And it was such a sweet thing. And he was like a multi-billionaire by then. And I was always wondering, how is it that they keep themselves so grounded? But I realized now as an entrepreneur that entrepreneurship is a very grounding, experience, because you are constantly battling so many challenges, and the smallest of victories, a smallest sale or a smallest mail acknowledging the work that you do, goes such a long way in giving you confidence and that you're very vulnerable, right? I mean, everything depends on that power of an idea, your ability to execute it. Of course, I've also been very grounded as a person because, my father brought us up that way as a 4G. I mean, you could be in a private chartered aircraft or in a train and, both were the same for you. Right. So the first experience that was really, I still remember, it was a hot morning in Bhagalpur. And we were there to do a film on the local Manjusha art, which is like Madhubani. And I was very excited because we had also discovered these ancient sites because it was part of the Mahajanapadas of 2,600 years or 2,800 years ago. And I remember marching through the crowded, dusty street of Bhagalpur with a camera tripod in my hand with equipment and my camera person walking with me. And I was like, gosh, if somebody just saw me right now in this grubby avatar, I mean, they would realize that, but that is it, right? I mean, you don't have the budgets to stay in 5-star or even 3-star hotels. You're staying in really small places, you don't have the creature comforts, you are struggling, but the pleasure of going and discovering a site, of being over there and touching the, pottery shards that came out, from the excavations, it's priceless.
So, Mini, you've been an inspiration to a lot of women out there. Any message that you want to give out to people, not just women, who are, who want to get out of their comfort zone. They want to follow their dreams, but they are in a secure job and they just don't know how to take that risk. Anything that you want to say to them?
Neha, it's all about planning, I think, and it's also about, going the extra mile. So when people talk about work-life balance, there is no work-life balance in my life, because there is work and life, and there are two streams that are constantly intertwining. So if I was in a show, in the commercial break, I would be fixing my son's birthday party, or, between shows, I would be doing that. At home on a Saturday or Sunday, you'll always find me working or doing something, ideating, doing something. So for me, I think from my personal experience, the fact is that it has to be all consuming to be able to make you want to do it, right? I mean, I reached a point where I couldn't do anything else because I just wanted to do this, right? And there was no choice. I mean, and a lot of great offers come and keep coming, even today, but I just can't get myself to do it. I know. And also, by the way, the other thing is that you have to be financially very secure to be able to venture into entrepreneurship, because it's not easy and it takes a long, long time to actually reach anywhere over here unless you're super lucky. So you have to walk in not with rose-tinted glasses, but I feel with great passion and security. I think that's very important. But having said which, I also feel that you don't have to do what I did. You don't have to really give up a career and do what I did. Because today, there is so much of flexibility that you have. There's so many options that you can do. You can do courses, you can study, you can follow your passion, you can do so many things. It's not a cut to cut, right? And for me, entrepreneurship is not about the big bucks that you make. It's about the journey. But it is not an easy, place to be. There are times when you question everything. You can be in the dumps, literally, and you have to pull yourself up from there. But it's really about balancing. And on balance, are you loving what you're doing?
Before you go, I have to ask you this question. What does it take to make a name for yourself in the TV journalism industry?
But I think anywhere, it takes a lot of focused, consistent work where you constantly upping your game. I also feel that the more you read, the more you can understand and learn. And so the more you read, the better you can write. So everything is about the inputs that you give yourself. And of course, the attitude. I think, as journalists, and this is a message, I mean, I'm very, very traditional in my view of what journalism should be in a country like India. We have so many problems, so many issues, that I think the role of a journalist is really to be the voice of the underdog, voice of reason, voice of checks and balances in the system, not a voice of propaganda, not a voice of shouting, not a voice of self-promotion. And I'm very disappointed at what is happening across. It's not about which party you went to or which CEO you hung out with, right? It's really about hard work. And I think that message has to be given. I mean, I'm sad when I see what is happening. I do look up to the beacons who are still there, and who do phenomenal work. And I feel that this de-glamorization of this business has to happen, because there is a purpose that you have. You have, because of the position you are, you have power. You have also, with that power comes a lot of responsibility. And I think that conversation is not happening enough.
Thank you so much, Mini, for this wonderful, wonderful conversation. And, I would like to say to all those people out there who are in their comfort zone, or those of you who are feeling glum and bored of their daily routine, You must listen to this chat. There's lots to learn. Yeah, thank you so much, Mini.
Thank you, Neha. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you so much.